There are a lot of people out there who don't like Jews. Now, I have no problem with this. There are people out there who don't like Irish people or French people, and there's no particular reason why anyone should like Jews or Irish people, so I don't have a problem. I have to admit, I take a certain pleasure in the knowledge that this will irritate people. But, and of course, there are a lot of people who believe that the Jews are behind this or that. There's no evidence for any of this, of course. There is no obvious logic to any of this. But that's neither here nor there. You know, a lot of people, most people in fact, believe lots of things that just aren't true. People believe things which are absolutely absurd, but they're convinced they're true. Now, of course, they never examine these things. Take feminism. Feminists are convinced the whole foundation of their ideology is that Western society in particular, but all civilizations, are oppressive patriarchies, particularly when it comes to women. Now, there is no evidence for any of this. None. Not a speck, not a dot. But they believe it. Now, of course, you can't have an intelligent conversation with a feminist activist. But if you could have a conversation, one question which is always worth asking is that if there is indeed an oppressive patriarchy, then, like all things, it must have had a beginning. It must have started at some point in history. So, exactly when did it start? Did it start 10 years ago? 50 years ago? 150? 300? 800? It must have started at some point. That's a good question to ask a feminist. But of course they can't answer because they don't know. Because feminists approach the world from an ideological point of view. They look at a phenomena, they apply their ideology or their ideological interpretation, and after that they don't want to debate. They have no interest in finding out what's going on underneath the bonnet. They have their cosy belief. That's all they want. But and recently I've been talking about Irish nationalists. Irish nationalists have all sorts of extraordinary beliefs for which there is zero evidence, but they believe these things with a passion. They believe these things at a pathological level. Let me give you one example, and I've mentioned this many times. It's a simple example, but it's a good example. A lot of Irish nationalists, foolishly, you could say idiot, I can't say the word, but let's say very foolishly, they believe that the British Empire was a bad thing for Ireland. Now, of course, if you're stupid, if you're willfully stupid, if you have your own ignorant prejudice and you have no interest in the facts, then you can look at the British Empire, all the bad oppressive things they did, let's say in Ireland, and you can say, oh, that was really bad. We would have been just fine without that. Of course, the truth is very simple. If Britain had an empire, it would naturally follow that they would make Ireland part of that empire. So if you don't want the British ruling Ireland, if you could roll history back, so to speak, then you would want the British not to have an empire. How would that happen in real life? Well, there's only one way it could happen. Britain would have to have been, let's say, a weak backward country. The reason Britain had an empire was that it was a very advanced country. Now, of course, advanced, successful countries tend to colonize other countries or dominate them. So if you don't want the British dominating Ireland, it means you want a Britain that is weak, vulnerable, etc. Now, how would that have worked out for Ireland? Well, almost certainly, we can't be absolutely certain, but the most likely scenario is that Britain would have become part of the Ottoman Empire. Now, it's possible that the Ottomans, having rampaged over the world, slaughtered and taken people as slaves, it's possible they might have taken over England and looked at Ireland and said, well, they're very nice people, so we're not going to do anything to them. But that's unlikely. The reality is, and this is just simple logic, if Ireland has not been part, there are two possibilities. Let's say if Ireland, one possibility is if Ireland had been more advanced, if Ireland as a country had been more advanced, we might have been able to stop the British, but we weren't advanced. There was another point, I've forgotten it anyhow, but the point I'm making here is, it's very easy to blame the British, but the reality is that Ireland became part of the British Empire because Ireland was weak and was backward, and that's a fact. And that's history. So get over it. This is what happens in history. Lots of things happen in history in regard to which we look back on and say that was terrible. By our standards, it was terrible. But it's history. I have never understood, truly, I've never understood the anti-British thing in Ireland. This constant insistence that the British were bad, that everything would be grand if it wasn't for the British. It makes no sense. History is history. Stuff happens. It happens inevitably in history. Why should you get so excited about it? And of course, the same nationalists who get very indignant about this, these same nationalists are sitting back and quite deliberately facilitating the destruction, the total obliteration of Ireland. And Irish nationalists are facilitating it. There you are. I get a little bit angry about these things. But, yes, the Jews. And there are Irish nationalists. And even, dare I say it, shockingly, I would say, that even a man like John Mortis You know, he has a soft spot for the Palestinians. Now, of course, John Motors has never been ruled by the Palestinians. I don't think he'd like it. I'm sure if the Palestinians really were to invade, if they were highly advanced, you know, people wouldn't like it. They wouldn't like it at all. Yes, there's a lot of Irish people who support Palestine. This is a country that doesn't treat gay people very well. It doesn't treat non-Muslims very well either. In some ways, it's quite like Ireland. You know, in Ireland, for generations, children were taught to hate the British. In Palestine, they're taught to hate the Jews. Now, of course, what they should be doing in Palestine, they'd be saying, look at those Jews. Look at the wealthy, happy society they have created. Maybe we should live like them. But no. And this is true also of Ireland. When I was growing up, all the anti-British stuff in school, I should have been told the exact opposite. Every child in Ireland should have been told, look at England. Look what a fine country it is. Democratic, wealthy, scientifically advanced. You know, Britain, we should have been encouraged to be like Britain, but no. We were encouraged to be like Irish people. You know, those Irish people who couldn't defend themselves against the British. You know, some people just don't want to join the dots. Now, of course, Israel is not perfect. There's a lot of nastiness going on there as well in international affairs. But I would much rather be captured by the Israelis than the Palestinians in a war, particularly if I was gay, or a woman, or a Christian, or, God forbid, an atheist. I don't know a huge number of Jews because Jews seem to sort of keep to themselves. Now, I don't know that for a fact, but that's the impression I get. So I don't know a lot about Jews. Haven't really met that many. Most I've met, I haven't met any who are unpleasant or anything. I suppose they're like everyone else. Some are nice people, some are not. And I'm sure that Israel has many, many negative things about it. I'm sure its citizens are not all saints. They have their fair share of bad people. But ooh,